Have you ever felt that you didn't stumble into this moment by accident? That something beyond logic arranged for you to be here? Listening to these words, right now, as your eyes move across this screen, a field far greater than coincidence is at work. The quantum field itself has pulled you here because you are ready to discover a hidden switch that most people will never realize exists. Imagine reality as a quantum mirror. Every small action, every glance, every breath, every pause is like a tiny crack across its surface. What seems insignificant ripples outward, bending the reflection and reshaping the entire image. You've been taught that only big decisions, massive changes, or dramatic rituals can shift your life, but the truth is the opposite. It is the smallest, most invisible actions, infused with awareness, that carry the greatest quantum weight. In the coming moments, you will see why. Because transformation doesn't happen through force. It happens through entanglement, through micro-practices that align your energy field with coherence. The tiniest gesture made consciously can rewire not only your own patterns, but also your connections with others. This is the essence of micro-entanglement practices, subtle acts that reorganize the invisible fabric of connection at the quantum level. You didn't find this teaching found you, and if you stay with me, you will discover how each micro-choice you make becomes a declaration to the universe, a signal strong enough to collapse old loops, reselect higher timelines, and ignite connections that feel both inevitable and irreversible. This is not just information, it is initiation. And once you receive it, your perception of connection and your reality itself will never be the same. Look around at the modern world and you'll notice something paradoxical. We've never been more connected through screens, messages, and endless streams of digital interaction. Yet we've never felt more isolated. Social media gives the illusion of intimacy, a quick like, a short comment, an emoji reaction. But beneath the surface, something is missing. These interactions often feel hollow, like echoes bouncing inside an empty chamber. This is the first layer of the disconnect loop. It convinces you that you are connected while keeping you energetically fragmented. You scroll through feeds, reply to messages, and check notifications. But none of it truly nourishes your soul. Instead, you're caught in a cycle of shallow stimulation that masks the deeper hunger for authentic resonance. At the quantum level, this is more than psychology. It is frequency entrapment. Each unconscious scroll, each autopilot reply, is a micro-action that reinforces the same pattern of separation. You're broadcasting signals into the field, but those signals are incoherent, fragmented, and weak, like static on a broken radio. They can't carry the resonance of real connection. The tragedy is subtle. You believe you are engaging, but in reality, you are entangling yourself deeper into disconnection. The loop strengthens because every unconscious action recollapses the same limited probability waves. You repeat the pattern not because you want to, but because your awareness is unconsciously selecting it again and again. At the heart of the disconnect trap lies a deeper mechanism, what quantum physicists and consciousness explorers call the observer loop. This is not just a metaphor. It is a precise description of how your awareness keeps recreating the same experiences over and over again. Here's how it works every time you direct your attention toward a familiar pattern, whether it's the endless scroll, the same shallow conversations, or the habitual emotional reactions. You are collapsing reality into that exact version once more. Your consciousness acts like a projector, shining light onto one probability wave and solidifying it as your lived reality. Beneath the surface of your daily life runs something few people ever notice: the invisible script. Imagine it as a hidden code, quietly writing and rewriting your interactions before they even unfold. You think you are improvising, but in truth, you're reading lines you didn't know were there. Before you fully understand micro-entanglement, you've probably already felt its whispers. These are the subtle signals that your consciousness is shifting into resonance with something far greater than ordinary connection. They appear quietly, often in moments you dismiss as coincidence, yet they carry unmistakable weight. Think about the times you've experienced sudden synchronicities when you think of someone and they instantly message you, or when you hear the exact phrase you needed at the precise moment. These are not random events. They are evidence that your energy field and another's are entangled, moving in rhythm beyond physical distance. Dreams also become messengers. You may dream vividly of someone you haven't seen in years, only to encounter them unexpectedly the next day. Or you dream of a conversation, and when you wake, the same words are spoken in real life. These dreams are not illusions. They are quantum previews, glimpses of connections already forming in probability fields before collapsing into your timeline. Another signal is emotional resonance at a distance. Have you ever suddenly felt a wave of sadness, joy, or anxiety, only to later discover that someone close to you was experiencing exactly that emotion? This isn't imagination. It's your nervous system tuning into entangled frequencies, registering shifts before words are exchanged. The ordinary mind may label these experiences as luck, coincidence, or imagination. But the truth is deeper. Your system is awakening to micro-entanglement. You're starting to sense the invisible threads weaving between you and others. These signals are not anomalies. They are invitations. Invitations to recognize that connection is already happening on a quantum level, and your awareness is finally catching up to what has always been true. Entanglement is more than a physics term you half remember from a documentary. It's the operating principle behind micro-entanglement in everyday life. In physics, entangled particles mirror each other's states instantly, no matter the distance. In lived experience, consciousness can behave the same way. Two or more people, actions, or moments become linked so that a shift in one registers in the other immediately. This linkage isn't mystical fluff. It's a working model for how subtle exchanges carry real causal weight. When your attention, intention, or emotional tone aligns with someone else's even unconsciously, you create a coherent channel. That channel transmits influence faster and more accurately than words ever could. Think of it as an invisible cord tug. One end and the other vibrates in response. That vibration is entanglement in action. Importantly, entanglement doesn't require drama. It is established through countless tiny acts: the glance that lingers, the tone you use when you answer, the small consistency of presence. Each micro-action acts like a tiny knot, tying you into another's field. Over time, those knots form a network that can steer conversations, emotional climates, and even decision paths without anyone saying a word. There's a practical implication: you are always participating in entanglement, whether you intend to be or not. This makes conscious practice a power move. By cultivating coherence, steady breath, clear intention, calm, emotional tone, you tune your end of the cord to a frequency that uplifts and stabilizes others. Conversely, fragmented attention and reactive emotion entangle people into confusion and repeat old loops. Understanding entanglement shifts The game connection is not accomplished only by visible acts. It's woven by invisible micro-choices. Master those tiny choices, and you master how ripples propagate through the field of human relationship to understand micro-entanglement more viscerally. Picture a stone dropped into a still pond. The splash seems small, but the ripples extend outward in widening circles, touching shores far beyond the point of impact. This is the essence of time ripple, tiny actions creating waves that reverberate across timelines, relationships, and even unseen probabilities. A simple smile to a stranger can ripple into their day, shifting the choices they make, which ripple into the people they meet, and so on. One conscious breath before speaking can ripple into the tone of a conversation, transforming not only how words are received, but how trust is built. These are not trivial gestures. They are micro-actions acting as seeds of coherence, shaping currents that move far beyond what you can directly observe. At the quantum level, every choice you make sends out informational waves, because time is not strictly linear. Those waves don't just ripple forward, they ripple sideways and backward, brushing against alternate probabilities. That's why déjà vu sometimes occurs after a micro-action you've brushed against a timeline where that moment already unfolded differently. What makes the time ripple metaphor so powerful is its humility. You don't need to cause a tidal wave to change the ocean. A single drop is enough to start motion that eventually transforms the whole surface. Likewise, you don't need monumental efforts to shift your reality. Awareness in the smallest gesture creates ripples that rewire not only your own trajectory, but also the collective field. Every micro-choice you make is a stone dropped into the pond of existence. The question is not whether the ripples will spread, they always do. The question is, what frequency are you sending into the water of time? It's tempting to believe that only the big decisions shape reality: quitting a job, starting a relationship, moving to a new city. But the quantum field doesn't operate on size, it operates on frequency. This means that every micro-action is quantum. A breath, a pause, a glance, or even the decision to remain silent carries weight in the energetic architecture of your life. Think of each micro-action as a pebble dropped into the quantum field. The ripples may be invisible to the eye, but they reorganize the probabilities available to you. A smile at the right moment may collapse a probability where connection is lost and instead stabilize a timeline where intimacy flourishes. A single exhale before speaking may dissolve tension that otherwise would have triggered conflict. In the language of quantum physics, these tiny acts are interventions in the wave function itself. What makes micro-actions powerful isn't their size, it's their coherence. An unconscious gesture keeps you cycling in the same loop, but a conscious micro-action, performed with presence, is like a tuning fork, striking the entire field. It doesn't just change the act itself, it reorganizes the atmosphere around you. The profound secret is this: you're never not creating reality. Every choice, however small, is a declaration to the field. You're constantly sending signals, constantly entangling, constantly collapsing possibilities into form. Once you understand this, life stops being about waiting for big shifts and becomes about infusing presence into the smallest gestures. When you realize every breath and every glance is quantum, you reclaim power. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes sacred, the mundane becomes magical, and the smallest act becomes the hidden key that rewires the entire field of connection. If micro-actions are the stones we drop into the quantum field, coherence is the quality that determines how far those ripples travel. Coherence means alignment, your thoughts, emotions, breath, and body moving in harmony rather than contradiction. Science shows this clearly. The human heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body when your emotions are chaotic. That field broadcasts noise, but when you breathe steadily, calm your nervous system, and act from genuine presence, your heart field becomes coherent. And coherence doesn't just affect you, it extends outward, entraining others into the same stability. Think about moments when someone simply walked into a room and everything felt calmer. They didn't need to speak. Their coherence shifted the entire field. Or the opposite, when someone's scattered energy filled the space with tension, even if they said nothing. At the micro level, coherence is what transforms trivial actions into portals. A touch on the arm, a pause before replying, a steady breath in conflict without coherence. They're meaningless habits. With coherence, they become signals that ripple across timelines, collapsing new possibilities into reality. This is why micro-entanglement practices matter. They're not about adding more effort. They're about infusing coherence into what you already do. The smallest conscious act, aligned in thought, feeling, and presence, is infinitely more powerful than the largest unconscious gesture. When coherence becomes your default frequency, you stop leaking energy through fragmentation. Instead, you become a walking transmitter of stability. And from that state, even your most ordinary micro-actions begin rewiring the field of connection. Imagine standing in a dark theater. The stage is filled with countless actors, props, and backdrops, but you can barely see anything. Then, a single spotlight switches on. Instantly, your perception narrows. Whatever the light touches becomes the story, while the rest fades into shadow. This is the power of the quantum spotlight, and it works the same way with your awareness. Your consciousness is the spotlight. Wherever you place it, probabilities collapse into reality. When you act unconsciously, the light flickers randomly, illuminating fragments without coherence. The stage feels chaotic, disorganized, and disconnected. But when you choose to shine your awareness deliberately, even onto something as small as a breath, a pause, or a glance, that act becomes illuminated with meaning. It becomes the focal point through which reality reshapes itself. What's profound is that the spotlight doesn't need to be large. A tiny beam can change the entire narrative of the stage. In the same way, a small but coherent action can reorganize the whole field of your relationships. This metaphor reveals why micro-actions hold such immense quantum power. They're like precise beams of light in a theater of infinite possibilities. When directed with coherence, they don't just highlight reality, they restructure it. The quantum spotlight shows us that transformation isn't about doing more, but about choosing where and how to shine the awareness we already carry. In truth, you are always holding the spotlight. The only question is, are you letting it flicker unconsciously? Or are you deliberately illuminating the acts that will rewrite your reality? We've been conditioned to believe that transformation must be dramatic. People chase big rituals, major breakthroughs, or life-changing decisions, expecting these to flip their reality overnight. And yes, grand gestures can create momentum, but here's the rarely spoken truth. It is not the large, theatrical actions that rewrite timelines. It is the smallest, coherent actions, repeated with awareness, that truly shift your reality. Think of it like this. A massive wave looks powerful, but it eventually crashes and dissolves. A steady current, however, reshapes coastlines over time. In the same way, one big ceremony or intense breakthrough can inspire you, but if your micro-actions remain incoherent, you will collapse back into the old loop. Transformation only stabilizes when the smallest gestures, the words you choose, the breath you take before reacting, the way you hold presence in silence are infused with coherence. This truth is hidden because it seems too simple. People want fireworks, not subtle shifts. But the quantum field doesn't respond to drama. It responds to frequency stability. Every tiny act performed with alignment sends a consistent signal into the field, and that signal collapses probabilities into a new timeline. A single conscious pause can redirect the outcome of a conflict. A single choice to breathe instead of react can dissolve years of karmic repetition. Ask yourself which action carries more power. A week-long retreat where you feel awakened but return to old habits, or one mindful gesture repeated daily that slowly rewires your entire field. The second option may look ordinary, but quantum physics tells us it is extraordinary. Stability of frequency always outweighs intensity of performance. The hidden truth, then, is liberating. You don't need to wait for a big breakthrough to shift. You already hold the switch in your smallest actions. Transformation isn't in the fireworks, it's in the flicker of awareness you choose to sustain. The quantum field amplifies coherence, not spectacle. And once you embrace this, you realize your reality can shift not someday, but now, through the simplest act done with presence. To understand why the smallest actions hold such power, we need to glimpse the mechanics of the quantum field itself. In physics, a particle exists in a superposition of possibilities until it is observed. That observation causes decoherence, the collapse of endless probabilities, into a single outcome. What we rarely realize is that every micro-action is an observation, and each one is a moment of reselection. When you take a conscious breath instead of reacting, you're not just calming your body, you're collapsing one potential reality where conflict erupts and selecting another where peace prevails. When you choose to smile, you're not just lifting your mood, you're reselecting a timeline where connection deepens instead of fading. Even silence, when chosen deliberately, can collapse one probability into another. Most people experience decoherence unconsciously. They scroll, react, repeat habits without awareness. Each of these micro-actions selects the same familiar reality, reinforcing the same loop. That's why life feels repetitive. It's not fate. It's unconscious reselection. The observer loop ensures that the same script gets chosen over and over again, but the moment you bring coherence into your micro-actions, you disrupt the cycle. You become the chooser, not the passenger. Every breath, glance, and gesture becomes a quantum switch, a moment where the field reorganizes itself. Decoherence stops being random collapse and becomes intentional selection. You are literally re-editing the script of your life at the smallest scale possible. This is the hidden switch most people overlook. They wait for destiny to change through big, visible events, not realizing that destiny is sculpted moment by moment through countless invisible reselections. Transformation doesn't require waiting for the stars to align. It requires aligning your awareness so that the tiniest act becomes a decisive quantum choice. The truth is, stunning reality doesn't shift when you move mountains. It shifts when you breathe, when you pause, when you choose again. And in that choice, lies the power to step off the old loop and walk into an entirely new timeline. Picture holding a shard of holographic glass. At first glance, it looks fractured and incomplete, just a broken piece of something larger. But here's the mystery in holography. Every fragment of glass contains the entire image. Tilt the shard ever so slightly, and the entire picture shifts. You don't need to replace the whole hologram. You only need to reorient one piece, and the whole field reorganizes. This is the perfect metaphor for micro-actions in the quantum field. Your life may look like a collection of fragments, conversations, choices, habits, memories. It can feel broken, scattered, or incomplete. Yet each fragment contains the whole pattern of your reality. That means that even the tiniest adjustment in one fragment, a single coherent breath, a mindful pause, a different word chosen can reorganize the entire holographic field of your life. Most people try to fix the whole picture at once. They attempt massive overhauls, expecting that by force, they can transform everything. But quantum reality doesn't work by force, it works by resonance, just like the holographic shard. One micro shift in angle changes the image everywhere. That's why you don't need to fix your entire life. You only need to choose coherence in one small act, and the field responds globally. This is liberating because it means you're never too broken, never too late, never too scattered. The whole hologram is always present within every piece. Your smallest shift in awareness is enough to bend the light and reveal a new image. So ask yourself, what if the power to change everything wasn't in a grand gesture but in a subtle tilt? What if the timeline you've been waiting for is only one micro-choice away, like a holographic shard catching light at a new angle? Your smallest coherent action can refract reality into an entirely different pattern. The simplest practice can also be the most profound. One of the most powerful micro-entanglement rituals is something you already do thousands of times each day, breathing. But when you transform 3 ordinary breaths into 3 conscious breaths, you collapse old loops and open the door to coherence instantly. Here's how it works before you speak, before you react, before you step into an interaction that matters. Pause and take 3 slow, deliberate breaths. Inhale deeply, feeling the air expand your chest. Hold for a moment, allowing awareness to rest in your heart. Then exhale slowly, releasing not just air but the static of the old loop. Repeat this rhythm 3 times. Why 3 breaths? Because 3 is the threshold where the body shifts states, the nervous system recalibrates, the heart rhythm steadies, and the brain waves begin to harmonize. With each breath, you are not only calming yourself, you are also broadcasting coherence into the field. You shift the frequency of the entire interaction before a single word is spoken. Imagine the difference without this pause. You might rush into a conversation with tension, unconsciously replaying the same arguments or habits. With 3 conscious breaths, you step into the same moment carrying a different vibration. The timeline shifts, the energy changes, a door opens that wasn't available before. This practice takes less than 30 seconds, yet it has the power to collapse entire loops of conflict, misunderstanding, and disconnection. It proves that transformation isn't about doing more, it's about bringing awareness into the simplest acts. With 3 conscious breaths, you remind yourself and the field that coherence begins now. Sometimes the smallest act of writing can carry the weight of a declaration to the universe. This is the essence of the quantum note, a micro-practice where you encode intention into words and release them into the field. Unlike a journal entry meant only for yourself, The quantum note is written to be discovered consciously or unconsciously by another. Here's how it works. Take a small piece of paper and write a single coherence déclaration. It doesn't have to be long. A phrase like, "I choose connection over fear," or "love is my frequency," is enough. The power comes not from complexity, but from clarity and alignment. Once written, place the note somewhere. It can be found slipped into a book at a cafe, tucked inside a library volume, left on a park bench, or even given silently to someone you love. The beauty of the quantum note is that it entangles you with the receiver, even if you never meet. The note acts as a ripple in the field, transmitting the frequency of your declaration to whoever encounters it. And because reality itself is holographic, the note doesn't just shift their field, it reinforces your own. Every time you write and release one, you stabilize coherence inside yourself. Think of it as planting seeds in the collective soil. Each note is a seed of resonance. Some may sprout immediately, changing someone's day. Others may linger unseen, waiting for the perfect moment. But all of them ripple back to you, reminding you that connection is not confined to direct interaction. It is woven through the quantum field itself. A quantum note is proof that a single sentence, aligned with love, can rewire the invisible web of connection for both giver and receiver. Among all the micro practices, the heart touch ritual may be the most direct way to bring coherence into your field. It requires no tools, no words, and no audience, only your presence. The practice is simple. Place your hand gently over your heart, close your eyes, and whisper a declaration such as, "I entangle with love," not fear. This gesture may seem small, but it immediately changes your physiology. The pressure of the hand stimulates the vagus nerve, calming the nervous system. The warmth of your palm increases awareness of your heartbeat, drawing attention back to the center of your being. In that moment, the scattered noise of the mind collapses, and your awareness synchronizes with the rhythm of the heart. Why is this powerful? Because the heart generates the most coherent electromagnetic field in the body. When you anchor awareness in the heart, your entire system shifts into alignment. You move from fragmentation into wholeness. And because your field interacts with others, this coherence ripples outward, subtly influencing the energy of anyone nearby. The heart touch ritual is especially effective in moments of stress, conflict, or uncertainty. Instead of spiraling into fear, you reclaim sovereignty with a single act of presence. You remind yourself that love is not an abstract concept. It is a frequency you can choose. Right here, right now, even practiced in silence. This ritual entangles you with the collective field of love. Each time you touch your heart with intention, you reinforce the neural and energetic pathways of coherence. It is a micro-action. Yes, but it carries macro impact. With one hand over your heart, you broadcast the message. Love is the frequency that rewires reality. When it comes to relationships, it's easy to believe that connection requires constant effort, endless conversation, or dramatic gestures. But true resonance is built through simple, subtle practices, micro-actions that transmit coherence more powerfully than words. One of the most profound is the 3-second gaze. Instead of rushing eye contact or glancing away, hold someone's eyes for 3 intentional seconds. In those moments, let your awareness drop from your mind into your heart. You don't need to say anything. Your presence communicates more than language ever could. People remember not just what you said, but how they felt in your presence and coherence is always felt. Another practice is the unexpected message of kindness. It doesn't need to be poetic or long. A phrase as simple as, "Thinking of you today," or "I'm grateful for you," sends ripples into the relationship field. These small gestures act as anchors of connection, reminding the other person that they matter beyond transactions or routines. Even physical presence can be transformed with micro-actions. A gentle touch on the shoulder, a nod of acknowledgement, or a smile held just a little longer than usual. All of these are micro-signals that reinforce entanglement. They tell the other person, "I see you. I am here with you." These practices may seem ordinary, but when infused with coherence, they become extraordinary. They shift the relational field without demand or pressure. Small, consistent acts are enough to weave trust, soften tension, and awaken the deeper truth of connection. At the heart of relational empowerment lies a quantum principle called field resonance. In simple terms, it means that your energetic state doesn't stay contained within you, it radiates outward, influencing the field you share with others. Think of a time when someone walked into a room and immediately shifted the atmosphere without speaking. Their calm presence softened the tension, or their scattered energy heightened the chaos. Here's the quantum truth when you hold coherence. You are not just stabilizing yourself, you are stabilizing the relational field. Your breath steadies not only your nervous system, but also subtly entrains the rhythm of those nearby. Your choice to pause before reacting doesn't just prevent conflict, it recalibrates the shared energy, opening a new possibility for harmony. Field resonance explains why micro-actions in relationships are so powerful. A small act infused with coherence ripples beyond the gesture itself, reorganizing the collective atmosphere. It doesn't force anyone to change, but it creates an invitation, a silent pull toward stability and trust. This principle is empowering because it shifts the focus from control to embodiment. You don't have to manage other people. You only need to hold your frequency. When you choose coherence, you become a transmitter, and the field around you cannot help but adjust. Every relationship you have is like a play unfolding on a stage. The conversations, the gestures, the dynamics, they all feel spontaneous. But beneath the surface, there is often an invisible script guiding the interaction. It's made up of old patterns, unspoken expectations, and unconscious habits. Without realizing it, you and the other person may be reciting the same lines, over and over, replaying the same story. This is why arguments with loved ones can feel so predictable. The words may differ slightly, but the rhythm is familiar, the same tension, the same defensive reactions, the same ending. The invisible script has taken over, and both actors are trapped in the loop. Here's the quantum truth. A single micro-action of coherence can flip the script. Imagine an actor on stage suddenly pausing, refusing to deliver their usual line. Instead, they breathe, soften their tone, or choose a new word. Instantly, the entire play shifts. The other actor cannot follow the old script. Because the cue has changed, a new story begins to unfold. This is the power of micro-entanglement in relationships. You don't need to rewrite the entire play at once. You only need to choose a different gesture in the moment, a pause instead of a reaction, a smile instead of silence, a word of gratitude instead of blame. That small act is enough to break the invisible script and redirect the entire timeline of connection. Every micro-action you take doesn't just affect your personal reality, It also touches the collective field. Think of humanity as a vast ocean. Each thought, breath, or gesture is like a drop of water falling into that ocean. Alone, it seems small, but together, these drops create currents that shape the tide of our collective experience. This is why subtle acts of coherence matter. When you choose love over fear in a single interaction, you're not just shifting your timeline, you're sending out a frequency ripple that influences the collective wave. The resonance may be invisible, but it's undeniable. Someone else, perhaps miles away, may suddenly feel calmer or more open because the field itself has adjusted. Science hints at this through studies on collective meditation, where groups focusing on peace measurably reduce conflict in surrounding regions. These aren't miracles, they're demonstrations of how coherence ripples through the shared quantum field. The profound truth is that no action is ever too small. A gentle smile to a stranger, a note of kindness, a conscious breath before speaking, all of these micro gestures ripple beyond you. They become part of the morphic field, available for others to tap into. When enough people begin seeding the collective with coherent micro-actions, the field itself transforms. The world doesn't awaken through massive revolutions alone. It awakens through countless tiny ripples, converging into a wave too powerful to ignore. To understand how micro-actions ripple into the collective, we turn to the idea of morphic resonance, a concept proposed by biologist Rupert Sheldrake. In essence, it suggests that patterns of behavior, thought, and form become easier to repeat once they've been established in the collective field. Think of it like learning a new skill. The first person to play a piece of music struggles, but as more people learn it, the field of possibility strengthens. Soon, even a beginner can pick it up faster, because the morphic field is already saturated with that pattern. Applied to micro-entanglement, this means that your smallest acts of coherence don't just benefit you, they contribute to the resonance of coherence across the entire human field. Each conscious breath, each mindful gesture, each act of kindness becomes part of a library of frequencies that others can unconsciously access. This explains why collective awakening often feels exponential. At first, it seems like only a few are practicing presence. But as coherence ripples outward, more people suddenly find it easier to embody awareness. Even without knowing why, they are tuning into the resonance already seeded by others. Morphic resonance shows us that no effort is wasted. Every micro-action is not just personal, it is participatory. You are helping to strengthen the resonance of a new timeline, one in which love, coherence, and connection become the easier, natural choice for humanity as a whole. Imagine standing on the shore of a vast ocean at dawn. The horizon stretches endlessly, shimmering with infinite possibilities. Each wave rising and falling is like a potential timeline, waiting to be chosen. The ocean doesn't limit you, it offers you endless options. What matters is how you step into it. This is the essence of the ocean of possibilities metaphor. The collective field is not fixed. It is fluid, dynamic, and alive. Your micro-actions are like pebbles dropped into this ocean. Each choice sends ripples that merge with countless others, shaping the tide of collective reality. Most people stand frozen at the shore, believing the ocean is too vast, their actions too small. They wait for a storm to push them in, or for someone else to decide the direction. But the truth is, even the smallest pebble changes the flow. A single micro-action of coherence, one breath, one smile, One gesture of kindness creates a ripple that contributes to reshaping the entire ocean. This is why your participation matters. No one wave defines the ocean, but together, they create the rhythm of the world. The ocean reminds us that reality is never static. It is fluid, waiting for your contribution. And with every micro-action, you are not just surviving in the water, you are helping steer the tide toward a future where love and coherence are the prevailing currents. Every loop you felt trapped in, every moment of disconnection, every cycle that seemed unbreakable, it all comes down to the smallest actions you choose in the present moment. The truth is clear now: transformation doesn't demand monumental effort. It begins with coherence infused into your micro-actions. 3 breaths, 1 mindful gaze, a gentle hand over the heart, a single note of kindness. Each act may seem ordinary, but together they weave extraordinary realities. These are the quantum switches hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to claim them. And as you embody these practices, you're not only shifting your personal timeline, you are seeding the collective field. Every ripple of love, presence, and coherence adds to the wave that carries humanity into awakening. You matter more than you realize. Your smallest gestures can tip the balance of reality. So here is the invitation: declare your shift. Anchor it now. Speak it. Write it. Or whisper it into your heart. Say, I choose coherence in my smallest actions. I shift the field now. Leave your declaration below. Claim your power. And remember, the shift doesn't wait for someday, it begins in this breath. In this choice, in this moment,